Here we go.
Nole Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. This isn't one of our normal episodes. We decided to do a pop-up episode kind of with a few big headlines today. Lucky enough to have the full panel today with Chris Frazier of Spear Addicts right next to me, Spear Addicts Media, that is. Jen Santee, my beautiful co-host, as always, aka Jen Nole 2013 on X. You can find her over there. And Jesse Coger, plantthe.com. Might as well start the show off with it. A bit of a down note, but we knew that Mike Martin had some health issues going on. Recently, there was a news story came out or put out by his family, just letting us know that that he was stable, but and I believe a sort of like hospice situation for the time being, and it wasn't not that long ago. A lot later we get the news, and it's heavy hearts around Nole Nation as Mike Martin Senior has passed. And just prayers out to the family and condolences, and I'll turn it over to whoever wants to speak first. As we all kind of give our thoughts on the situation.
This one actually got me kind of upset. Not gonna lie to anybody. That guy recruited me pretty hard, and even after I couldn't come to Florida State, he helped regardless. So just hearing that he went into hospice was bad enough. Then finding out today that he passed, it took a toll on a lot of dudes that came through the program, and even ones that didn't, but he still helped no matter what.
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, this is a guy that is an absolute legend on the field, first off, on the diamond. And then I think his legacy stretches even farther off the field than what he did during his time at FSU. But, still, when you talk about the on-the-field accomplishments, he's the winningest coach in college baseball history, over 2,000 wins, 40 wins in 40 consecutive seasons, stuff that will never be matched in as long as the earth is still spinning. I don't think anybody's ever going to surpass what he did. Of course, people will talk about the lack of titles, but, there's still a lot of postseason success that he had. The player tree that he has, is very impressive. Even current head coach Link Jarrett played for him as well. And, it's just a great human being, a great ambassador for the university. He loved Florida State more than anything, and I think that was important. And for me personally, if it wasn't for Mike Martin, he has a big influence of why I'm even a Florida State fan to begin with, because my brother used to go to Mike Martin baseball camp a lot. And so I was too young to go at the time, but I used to love watching them, and you would get to interact with them and meet them. And then like my dad would take me over to Doak Stadium while they were at baseball practice and stuff. So it's a name that I've known for my entire life. And I just can't say enough about the person that he was and what he did both on and off the field. And, obviously his legacy will live on forever at FSU, but I just want to send my thoughts and heartfelt prayers to his wife, Carol, the entire Martin family, and the FSU baseball community, because it is a massive loss. And, we've been fortunate at Florida State to be blessed with such great, long tenured coaches that are also great people, strong in their faith, strong in their family. Obviously, you talk about Bobby Bowden and even Leonard Hamilton. I know, people may be neither here nor there on that, but he's just a genuinely good person. So I think we've been blessed, and it's a hard loss, like you said, heavy hearts, but Mike Martin will never be forgotten in the FSU community.
Beautifully said, Jesse. Beautifully said. Jen?
Yeah,
I'm trying to pull up Twitter right here to share some of the people's thoughts from the timeline too.
Yeah, I hate this. All my thoughts and prayers are with him, and of course his amazing family, for everything he did for Florida State baseball, for everything he did for not just baseball, but for the school, for the athletes, for the athletic department, for the fans. I guess it's one of those things where, that gif of him where he says it's lit is seriously so funny. He was such a generous man. And another thing that I remember, and I know I don't want to bring up the horrible hiring of Willie Taggart, but it was the way Senior came in and met Willie. For me, just watching that video, just watching him wait in line like everybody else to meet the new football coach, that just was the way he was. He never thought of himself as this bigger than the program person, even though he was such a famous man there, and everybody, he was so well respected, he was so well loved, and he just had this humbleness about him that was almost, it was like Bobby Bowden. I mean, I just, it's almost like we lost Bobby again. That's kind of how it feels. So, thoughts and prayers for him and for his family and his children and his grandchildren and all of the above, and especially the players that played for him, because I know this is a big loss for them.
Absolutely. I want to play this one interview before we kind of move on, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about him. But this one, I thought was really poignant. It's one of his better interviews right here. It's probably one of my favorite ones. So I just wanted to play it for the people real quick, if we can get it to work here. I believe this was after a game.
That it's just another game. It's not just another game. Florida beat us. I'm not a happy camper. I'm doing a great job of faking this whole interview. I want to get up and throw things. I want to get up and tear things up, but I can't. I wish I could say.
And that's, that's just, a little bit of Mike Martin and kind of his attitude. I'll never forget when that happened. And, as we stroll through and look through some of these clips, you might as well listen to this one too. This one's about 40
Robert is a guy
long.
that put the players first, that loves the university that gave him an opportunity, that loves to come to Omaha and compete, that relishes the memories that he's had at Florida State, that is a true Seminole, a guy that got a chance. And I think that's all any of us want in life, is a chance. I was given a chance, and I will be forever grateful.
That encapsulates it right there, man. We're forever thankful for Mike Martin and the entire family, the big, part they played on 30, 40 years, whatever it was, within FSU baseball. And, he's somebody that we will remember lovingly, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot of stories on this show going forward about Mike. But again, prayers with the family and everything else. There's no real good way to, move away from it. Like I said, we'll continue. I'm sure he'll come up again in the show, but all kind of news around the timeline. It seems like we just really can't get a break from the conference realignment stuff. UNC comes out and makes their statements a couple days ago, pretty much after saying we're a bunch of dogs yapping and barking last year. They come out pretty much say, it echoes this the same exact sentiment of what we were saying. In the midst of all these things, you have ACC files a day before us, is when we planned our BOT meeting. We file our filing against them, one in North Carolina, ours obviously in Florida. Well, we saw Florida State's amended filing on our show Tuesday. We talked about that. It was scorched earth. It was awesome. It really got into the Chad Swafford stuff. Well, on the North Carolina side of things, that suit that they tried to, do a day before Florida State even filed suit, they came back again, like I said, and amended it. And they're trying to get everything sealed, everything to be off the record. They don't want the public to see. And mainly the main focus of today's conversation and kind of Florida State's response is especially the conversations between the ACC and the ESPN. When all these negotiations got done, when the quote unquote ultimatum was made, all that good stuff. And that's what it really goes into. And Lord have mercy, the amount of presidents and kind of detail Florida State's filing had today that went into that stuff. It really just makes it seem like there's no way in hell like they're ever going to be able to keep all this stuff in house.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I haven't read the entire thing yet, but it really feels like at first, they kind of got ahead of us with the preemptive strike, and then we kind of like, we did our thing. Then they came back, and we were like, okay, hang on a second. Now you done talked about my mama. The kid gloves are coming off. You know what I mean? So it's like now we're going to start calling names. And like when you just look into just their business dealings, the ineptness and the collusion between the Swaffords and the way the Raycom deals worked out when you had, the other networks that dropped their deals with them, but yet it became mandatory for the ACC to have to deal with Raycom in order to get the contracts. Like it is amazing to me how up in arms they are about the stuff going public. I'm like, did you guys confess to a murder in the Grant of Rights? And like, there's a body buried under this thing, like, you know, some Indiana Jones Temple of Doom type of stuff. Because this is like, I've never seen someone go to such lengths to avoid things, but you know what that means. I mean, you know what that
Right.
tells you. That means they have something to hide. And I think the UNC thing was very interesting. I think that's a huge domino when you talk about a school who is Tobacco Road. I mean, that is the definition. If that domino falls, you have to imagine that that's really losing one of their pillars that holds up this conference. And it's interesting in there. You know, I think when you talk about what other schools, how they look at this, they can throw everything they want, all the spaghetti against the wall they want about Florida State and saying what we're doing and this and that and the other. It's a dereliction of duty as an athletic director, as a president, to put your university in a disadvantaged position by just accepting $30 to $40 million revenue gap. And that's what you heard from UNC. They said, look, we have the second most, non-football Olympic sports and women's sports as Stanford, a new member in the conference. And if this doesn't get fixed, we might have to cut some of those sports. And so, you know, I think that just speaks to where people are really kind of maybe stepping back and looking at things like, okay, Florida State's onto something. You know, it just ours happened to be public and they were able to do it behind closed doors. But yeah, I mean, this thing seems like it's gonna get blown wide open. And I think now you're seeing Florida State, like I said, take the kid gloves off and show why the ACC doesn't want to get to discovery. Because if they do, I mean, this is more than egg on your face. You know, this is going to be bad for them. It's a house of cards, and it could all collapse if it does go to public.
Well, I'm still on a countdown waiting for the Pat 40 articles. We're on 48 hours. We're on 48 hours now
Right.
since North Carolina made their comments, and I have yet to see Dennis Dodd, Pat 40. Who else was it that wrote these? You know, talk about how Florida State's greedy. They're going to ruin college football. All these things. They're ruining the ACC. They're being bulls in a china cabinet. Nobody wants them. Their program is irrelevant. Blah, 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 blah. But when North Carolina says something, that's cool. And we understand North Carolina deserves everything. For what? What does North Carolina deserve anything for? They don't do anything except for bring a TV market. And we're not even sure what that TV market really does. Because, hell, who watches North Carolina nationally? Nobody. Not one soul. And look, I know they're valuable. I know they're wanted. I'm just saying I'm waiting on the articles because, as everybody says, North Carolina is the most important person in the ACC. So if they're coming out saying something, aren't they actively trying to blow up the ACC with their comments? I'm just waiting, and I have yet to see any sports reporter from ESPN or The Athletic or SI or whatever calling North Carolina greedy or wondering why they want to blow up this beautiful, wonderful conference that does nothing to anybody. And they're so good at their job and they're so non-corrupt and they're just trying to make the little Boston College and Wake Forest of the world better. That's what I'm waiting on. I haven't heard it.
So we're not going to pull this whole thing up, but I'm going to read the first little bullet here, and then we'll turn it over to Chris because he hasn't got to speak yet. But the first thing, the main kind of gist of this thing is basically they want to see all this stuff. They want to say they entered into a confidentiality agreement, but it's just unlawful. So basically, because the ESPN agreements constitute public records under Florida's and North Carolina's Public Record Acts, they cannot be sealed from public view in this case. And there's more stuff we'll get into, but basically that's kind of the idea of what this whole thing is, and boy do they lay it out.
Not good yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do want to say one thing to what like Jen said is how everyone wants to paint Florida State as the bad guy in the room. It's like Florida State's just trying to do what everybody else is doing. Because if you want to talk about the SEC and the Big Ten, they're not those teams that are making that 30, 40 million a year more. They're not like, oh, you know what? We're going to donate what we make more than the ACC to charity because it's not fair to the game. Like it's an arms race in college football nowadays. Like this is not a gentleman's game like baseball. You have to do what you have to do to compete. And that's all Florida State is trying to do, which is why it dumbfounds me that people talk about, you're a bad guy. You're a bad guy for doing the best thing you can for your program, for your university. It is insane. And, you know, there's been rumblings about Clemson doing work in the background. Now you hear about UNC. And I just really think that, like, you know, now that all these schools realize like that Florida State might be onto something here. You know, there might be some smoke to getting out of the ACC. And, you know, like I've heard Chris mention before, some of the schools that don't necessarily have a landing spot, they want to sit around and collect their free lunch. But the ones that know where they're going to end up, UNC, you know, Clemson, Florida State, probably a program like Louisville, at least to the Big 12 or something like that. Those programs, if they know there's a greener pasture, they're going to head for the door once they get the opportunity. It's just Florida State had to be, like Jen said, you had to be the bull in the china shop, the first one to kick it off. Someone had to do it. And Florida State, you know, they're the cash cow for the conference. They bring the eyes to in the sport that matters, which is football. And I think that's why the ACC is so hell-bent on fighting this thing, because it's not like losing Maryland. You know, that was not a huge loss to your TV numbers. But if you lose Florida State, when it comes time, I mean, think about it. The own conference that carries you has not picked up the extension yet. So, like, they're not even that sold on the ACC. And if you lose Florida State, say Clemson, and possibly UNC, you know, just assuming they filled in with the three schools they filled in with, they're probably not. That's not going to be an attractive extension there. So this is why I think they're hell bent on not letting Florida State out, because, you know, your golden goose is getting ready to fly the coop.
Because you're crazy with any sense of power, any kind of like position of strength in an agreement to negotiate 10 years out for 10 years later on down the road, when now ESPN, they don't know that, like, back then they knew FSU was kind of stuck. They weren't going to be able to do anything for at least 10 years on the grant of rights. So they said, yeah, as long as we can. We got Florida State, Clemson holding this thing up. Now it looks like, okay, Florida State, Clemson's going to buck. Yeah, hell no. There's no way in hell they're going to extend from 2027 to 2036. But I'll read, if I didn't lose it here. No, I did lose it. But the Second Amendment basically comes out to say that it's not like the ACC is coming out like, well, this is kind of our secret formula for success with our TV product, with our football product. Here's our thing. There's no narrow, you know, request to redact this specific word, this name, because it's going to affect this person that works here or there. No, they just basically want to take out everything that, well, it makes us look bad. That number is going to make us look bad. The fact that we negotiated for half of what this person got, that makes us look bad. So that's not grounds to hide stuff. They're just like, yeah, we just want to hide all the number figures between ACC and ESPN. And that's not going to cut the mustard, because in states that have public rights requests, and they have precedent, they set 3 different cases in North Carolina, several cases in Florida. Like, what's the point of the court case? The point of the court is to be able to go a step above what's able to be done, like, in the public. And so all this other information is public. They point to 3 or 4 different articles by ESPN, by Sports Illustrated, etc., with exact figures, where the ACC themselves leaked the information, you know, for whatever reason at that time, down to specific dollar amounts. So yeah, not a leg to stand on with this thing, in my opinion. But
with all the information that y'all have been speaking on, what's the result? In like, great, it's great information, but I hope that everybody pays attention to what exactly it means. In the depths of what's being said, it's very simple. If there's something that you're wanting to seal and you want things hidden, that means you have what? More to hide.
mm-hmm.
The reason you want this hid or hidden is because you know there's more skeletons in the closet to become pulled out, so to speak, by Florida State, because this is very old. Like, we spoke about the Spofford situation about 2 years ago. There's been a lot of things happen in the merits of what's taken place. And then they're going to draw their amendments to ask for the court to seal this or seal that. I mean, I guess it never hurts to ask, but they're in true, want for that to happen. It can't take place because Florida State was the only school that could take this on in the manner that it's taking it on in. Like, I don't think everybody realizes how much all these athletic directors and presidents of these schools really speak to each other and what they speak about. Unfortunately, everybody's like, but Miami's also in Florida, so they have the sunshine. No, they're a private school. It's completely different. Miami can't do what Florida State's doing right now. Plus, would y'all want it in Miami's hands to get us all out? I don't. Well, what about Clemson? Why didn't Clemson do this? Clemson doesn't have the resources that Florida State has to do so. That's the issue. There's a money backing issue for Clemson. I'm going to be honest with people when I tell you what's wrong. North Carolina can't do this based off of what information it will bring out about their university. If you want the truth of the matter, the truth is that North Carolina, the university itself, has done quite well off of this deal. Do they come out publicly and start saying, I don't know how this is going to work, I don't need this? It's to save face. That's all that is. Because the truth of the matter is what amount of money that UNC's made off of what's all taking place. That's also something that would be hitting Discovery. Maybe before Discovery, maybe it's another amendment that comes out with Florida State. It just depends on how far Florida State wants to go with and who they want to pull out into the light, because dragging Swafford out into the light and his son and Raycom Sports and with Skipper and a couple others, it's easy to do with them because they no longer work at these places that they're being accused of doing what they did. The biggest issue is who you're going to pull out of the closet next. They have a job, a career, a university, institute to protect. What Florida State just did was it said, look, here's our flush. Not bluffing, but flush. Now the next step is you're going to sacrifice your night to us, or we're going to turn around and we're going to just snatch your queen, and it's going to be pretty much checkmate, bitch. It's literally the information that Florida State has without Discovery even been taking place. Not just hearsay, not rumors, not anything to that nature, but actual email receipts, actual text message receipts, actual recorded phone calls. Florida State has a lot of this that they've been gathering for some time, even before this past year. And now it's time to throw some of the ammunition out there to let them know that you're not fighting. You didn't bring a knife to a gunfight. Matter of fact, Florida State's now, what's next? I don't know how publicized this will be, but Florida State's going to show a nuclear warhead next. I'll go ahead and forewarn the ACC that's what's about to happen. So you have very limited time to respond. I've talked to too many people that are giving me the exact same information that definitely know what information is coming out because they're portions of one that give it. So it's not about if Florida State gets out. It's a matter of how much does it take. It's a matter of, like, let's get the true presidents out. I predicted almost 2 years ago that Florida State would be out by 2025. Now, I did not have the information of the nuclear warheads that Florida State had in their back pocket. Now, I don't know if we even play in the 2024 season in the ACC. I really don't. Based off of what information that was told to me today, if Florida State drops that, I don't know if the ACC has a conference to play any games in, being completely honest with you. Florida State didn't go into this hoping to win. Percentage of 90% of winning. We might pull this off. We might get a settlement. They knew they had them by the balls. And when I mean blatantly, and all the skeletons are there. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when Florida State wants to pull the trigger truthfully. And does the ACC allow them to pull the trigger? I don't think so. Once they find out what the nuclear warhead looks like, they're not going to want any part of that. I don't care how much money you have to pay to get out. I don't care if every school that wants out pays them $150 million. It will not save them from what this information is. Not possible. You can't throw money at this one.
You can only imagine. First, I want to say happy birthday to Mike Bartz. Congrats for being a member for a month. And a big thank you to Till Dog for donating a membership. We really appreciate you guys. And I saw a question that, and it kind of led exactly where Chris was going with this. A lot of conversation around the timeline, around different podcasts and stuff. I think, in my opinion, people are making way too big of a deal out of the venue. It matters if it goes to UNC, but I think the idea is whether it's in Florida State or UNC or in North Carolina, just is kind of the difference of how much Florida State ends up having to pay anything or end up not just taking anything. That's the only thing a difference. Like, it makes a difference, but I don't think it's like to what Chris was alluding to. It's like, oh, if it's in UNC, you have trouble. You're not going to lose this case. So we can go with Jen next and then go around the panel, what you all think about that question.
Well, I mean, I agree with Chris. I think it's not a matter of if Florida State gets out. Florida State's out of the ACC. I don't think this is they're not. I mean, I don't care what Wake Forest fans say. I don't care what Boston College fans say, Miami fans, NC State fans that are like, y'all are stuck here to 2036. That's not happening. They're going to get out. It's a matter of when and how much. That's it. That's what it is. That's what it is right now. I also think that Florida State, the ACC, I don't think the ACC wants that grant of rights opened up. I don't even think they want to start that argument. I don't think they do. Because if they lose it, then it really implodes. Then every other school gets to go in, get the grant of rights, argue that, do their thing, and you're opening something that you don't want to be opened. So my guess is going to be Florida State's going to get out for a little bit more than we originally thought they would. I would say the exit fee, it could be close to 200 million. I don't know. I think Florida State's going to have a number they can swallow. The ACC will have a number that'll help them save face, and then they're out. That's just how I see this going. Now, if there is something in their back pocket where they can get out for less, hey, do it. But I just think everybody wants this over as far as Florida State's concerned. The ACC is concerned. I think they want it over. I was thinking about 100 million. Now I'm kind of moving closer to 200 million. I don't know that that's really accurate. That's just my thoughts right now.
Well, thanks to Thank you to Mike Bartz as always. But Jeff Hill, like he does, come through here, makes it rain with 5 memberships. We appreciate you, bro. Keep doing your thing, and like one of the most generous people of all Florida State podcasts. Sorry there. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, man. Venue, obviously, you feel better if it's in Florida. Of course, you get home field advantage. But like you said, I don't think it's really a massive deal because, the law is the law. And this is a very high-profile case with a lot of media coverage. So I don't think anyone's going to do anything, like a judge isn't going to do anything sideways or something like that, that they're going to be under the national microscope. I mean, they have a career at stake too, so they're going to do by the letter of the law. And I just think when you look at some of these things that the ACC is asking for, and basically asking for like a blank check and damages and stuff, it's unreal. I mean, it's an unreal expectation. It was just kind of firing, a shot off into the dark to see what would happen. And I think with the last retort by Florida State, it was kind of like, hey, look, we know some things you probably don't want brought to light. And so, there's probably more that they could bring to light. And like Chris said, there's probably some schools that got some things they don't want to be brought out into the legal battlefield as well. And so, yeah, man, I just think Florida State, listen, there's so much money and stuff involved in this. The legal fees, I would hate to even know what they cost. But Florida State's not making this move unless they know they have a jam-up solid case at the same time. And the things that you've seen, you haven't seen any of a lot of the stuff that you've seen come out from the ACC from Florida State side. Like, we know there's not a lot of shady, dirty dealings. And you've seen that from the ACC with the Swafford things, with the Raycom Sports, all this stuff. They can point to physical numbers now. The loss of the $82 million, whatever per school for the tier 2 and tier 3 rights, that was a sham of a deal. So they really, I think with this last one, they really pulled out like you're going to want to end this now or it's going to get really bad. But as far as where it gets argued, yeah, I mean, of course you want it in Florida, but at the same time, man, like, again, there's judges with their legal reputation on the line, and you can get in trouble for doing like, you can be, you can get legal trouble for doing crazy stuff like that. So I don't think it really matters so much, because it's probably still going to shake out the same way. I mean, evidence is evidence, and the law is the law. It is what it is.
Without a doubt.
It's what if, hypothetically, what if there was favoritism showed to 4 schools in the ACC?
Yeah, how hard would it be to do? I mean,
it's not hard at all to do. Where did Swafford and his minions come from? Anybody know?
North
North
Carolina,
Carolina.
baby. Tar Heel Blue. And it's crazy because the president of ESPN went there too. Under the swaying pine trees, Chris. They nodded out a deal that was just beautiful for the whole conference.
So what a lot of people don't understand is while that's catchy in the amendment of writing, there's more to that saying.
Mhm.
The depths of where that actually leads to, which it's like okay, the public's not going to know exactly what we're meaning. This is going to be a like asshole catchphrase that we're going to throw in there. Is how public would take it, but how the ACC took it, they knew exactly what it meant because they know where the deals were made under the swaying pine trees in North Carolina. It like I know that a lot of people are going to look at me like I'm a conspiracy theorist, and that's perfectly fine with me. I don't really care. I do enjoy detective shows and stuff, but not to the point that I think I am one. It takes evidence to know, not theories to know. Like theories get you into the right direction, maybe, but once you read evidence and it's hard facts right in front of you, it's a little bit different. So hypothetically, let's just say that you know all 4 schools that were favored. Let's say that if you drop that, there's probably 33, 34 people that will be injunction to spend some time in jail just based off of how malicious it is of what they did, how much they may or may not have taken from certain sports, how much they may or may not have taken from other universities that are members of the ACC. I mean, just think about how far this could really go if those hypotheticals were real and they came out.
So let me ask this then of the panel. And that, like, man, I appreciate you, Chris. You really put one in my back pocket. So we saw North Carolina. Let's look at this from a different lens, from the lens Chris just looked at it. A couple days ago, and we'll go back around the panel. North Carolina, we can go the other direction this time. North Carolina comes and they say, basically what we said a year ago when they were in the ACC's back pocket just a year ago, saying we're dogs barking out our ass and all this stuff. Well, now they're making the same things. Is there going to be pressure that comes from those boys clubs at North Carolina? The few chosen ones at NC State, whatever the case may be, the people within. Is there going to be pressure, from them, even if the ACC wants to bite this bone to say, hey, cut your losses, Gabish. We don't need all this stuff. We don't need the RICO statutes getting popped up.
So what I want people to pay attention to is if you want to know the 4 schools, hypothetically, go find the 4 schools in the ACC that not only have but had, like for a while now, standalone football facilities, senior weight programs with certain hybrid beds and et cetera inside of them. Those that aren't competing with Alabama and Georgia for better facilities. It's not hard to figure out which 4. Here's the craziest part. All 4 of them have a smaller endowment than Florida State does in athletics. Smaller.
Imagine that.
Where'd the money come from to pay for this standalone facility? Where'd the money come from to do these things that have been done for over the past? Here's the craziest part. A lot of these people broke ground on these facilities literally 3 days after the new agreement was made with Raycom Sports. Hypothetically.
Allegedly.
Real. Unreal. A lot of nice facilities at these places that, they don't have on paper. They're not spending a lot of money or putting a lot of money in, money coming in. Where's it coming from, Jesse?
Man, and that's the thing.
Now, I'm not trying to implicate you here, but where is it that you live?
Oh, I live outside of Charlotte, so I might have to go.
Well, what state is that?
Well, I'm in South Carolina now, but I'm like
I'm
30
You're
minutes
out,
from
you're
North
out of
Carolina.
hot water.
So I may have to go do some investigative journalism up in Greensboro or whatever, start taking some pictures and hiding in the bushes or whatnot, see what I got to do. But
oh, yay, that'll be fun.
Hey, let's do it. But, I do think Chris makes a good point. Like, if you have skeletons to hide, and this is probably what you were getting at, George, too, is like, do you put pressure to say, okay, they know what we did, and you don't want this as a problem. We don't want this as a problem. We are one of your biggest, good old boys, and we don't need the bat. We don't need the heat either. So you guys need to figure out what you need to do to let this go. Let this go down because we don't want all this called into light. We don't want egg on our face too, as North Carolina. And it wouldn't surprise me at all about any shady dealings. And I mean, there's so much money that goes around, and, think about back when some of these dealings were made. I mean, you didn't have a whole lot of the transparency. These guys can do handshake deals at country clubs, which is kind of what they're talking about, to be able to get money, and some of it probably goes in your pocket. And, everybody's corrupt at some point when it comes, everybody's got a price, and you hate to say it like that, but it is true. And, I think with this, it's like I always said, I think one of the best quotes I love from Warren Buffett is like, everybody who finds out who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. And I feel like right now there's a lot of teams, a lot of programs in the ACC that are swimming naked, and they don't want the tide to go out, because if that grant of rights gets brought to light, there's going to be some stuff that is exposed. And, hey, someone called me, Jesse is planting the spear, private investigator. If I got to go hide in the bushes, man, or bug some offices up in Greensboro or wherever, hey, send me. I'm only a few hours away. I can make it happen.
Jesse, put a Florida State twist on the saying. They don't want the tribe to go out.
Basically, that's a great twist on it.
But it, like what I'm and exactly what is being said. So if certain allegations hypothetically come out and it states X, Y, and Z did so and so, such and such, took such and such, this is what the NCAA waits for. So they don't have to spend their money to investigate. Florida State and so is doing the investigation. Once these things were, or if they were to come to light, not at any point would not all four of these universities not only be in a shit ton of trouble, but in the NCAA bylaws, because I'm bored all the time and I want to go find out what would happen if this took place. Every sport, not just football, but every sport would get the death penalty in those universities.
Jesus Christ.
I think one thing that you touched on too that's very important is a lot of the people not only have a job at risk, but there's legality at risk, because some of these damages are in the millions. Like that could mean jail time. And once you get out into the court, it's a legal matter, and you're either going to have to perjure yourself or you're going to have to spill the tea. And so I think there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to be put in that position. A lot of people with a lot to lose don't want to be put in that position.
And based on what Florida State does here, hypothetically, if they had those things, if Florida State was to have those things and have that as ammunition to show, this is the entire reason that I've been predicting that Florida State leaves for $0. Because what are you going to do if, like, we know we're winning? Like, it's not a, you could win, you should be able to win. It's, okay, we won already, but let's just make it permanent in court. We leave scot-free anyway. Why would you give up scot-free for any reason whatsoever? The only reason that you would do so, which is going to tell me a lot about Florida State, if they do agree to a settlement and they pay anything, it'll let me know what I need to know. And then if that happens, I will let y'all know what that is. But I don't see it happening. I don't see Florida State divvying up a dime. But we'll see what happens.
One thing I'll say to that, and he reminded me of something that we talked about on an episode we recorded earlier today, was if Florida State has the case that they think they do, what interest do they have in settling? Even if the ACC comes to them and says, hey, look, we'll let you out for $100 million. If you're Florida State and you got a lockup dynamite case, I'm sorry, buddy, you can get to stepping, because I know once this gets in front of court of law, we're going to get out for less than that. So, to me, that's a really interesting twist on it, is like, do they even take a settlement if they know they have a slam dunk case? Because like Chris said, if you know you can go all the way and win, why risk having to pay $100 million when you know you have a good chance of getting out for nothing?
What if the settlement, and we could start with Jen on this one, to kind of marry what y'all are talking about. What if you end up paying 120 million and the settlement is okay? We'll let you out this year.
What if the settlement is $120 million? You get out this year, but the ACC is paying Florida State.
I like the sound of that even better. Absolutely. Jen?
Yeah, I think the reason, even if they have this slam dunk case, right, and they think they have a slam dunk case, and actually, I think they have a very good one. Again, I'm not an attorney. But I do think they have a great case, but you always run into an issue. Depends on who the judge is, right? Who's the judge assigned to this case? What are they? Are they a originalist? Are they a, you have so many different eras of judges, and this is a civil suit. So judges have a little bit more leeway in civil suits. So my guess would be the reason for a settlement, and I absolutely get it. I wish they could get out for way less. I think, like I said, I just think that the settlement's going to come because both Florida State wants out. They want out. They want out no matter what. They just want out. They want this over. They want this done. They want to be in a new conference, and they want it done. Whichever conference, we know which one it is, can't even invite them until they get rid of this legal matter. It just can't be done. So I do think the settlement's going to happen. And I think that's why it's going to happen, is because you never know when you get things in front of a judge, jury, however it goes, who you have, right? I mean, you can look at it by the letter of the law, but the law can be interpreted differently depending on your philosophy, right? I mean, I think it's safer to take a settlement offer. I think it'll be quicker. I think things get tied up quicker. I think they get done quicker. Now, if I were Florida State and I had this absolute bombshell, would I try and get out for less? Absolutely. If they come at me with a number, like I think the ACC is going to come to them with like a 200 million number at first. I think they counter. I think it gets countered. But I think Florida State does have a number that they're willing to swallow in order to wrap this up quickly. I do.
Yeah, and I think it really does come down to a math equation too. And Alfred's smart about that. If you're making 30, 40 million more and a buyout's 200 million, you swap conferences, that's paid off in under 10 years. So that's not a huge deal. So it's just a math problem. And I think that's what Alfred has said before. And when the number makes sense for FSU, they're going to hit the door. And I think what the ACC's fear is as soon as someone cracks the door open, that leaves it open to everybody else to stick their foot in. So that, the whole house of cards could come down. But no, I agree, Jen. I think you don't always want to risk it in front of a judge. And I believe this is a civil matter, so it doesn't go to jury. It's just a judge trial. But yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Once it gets to a number that makes sense for Florida State, with factoring in what they'll be making more on top of what they're getting paid in the ACC in the new conference, then it's just a math problem. And once the math works out, they're out.
Just to be clear, and I want to give Chris, just for the sake of argument, a chance to kind of highlight why he thinks that it could be the other way, that it's ACC looking for the settlement. And I know there's only so much we could say, but like what we've all kind of talked about, if it is in discovery there, and like, Jen and Jesse are absolutely right, and we're going based on everything we know. If there is a nuclear warhead, if there is like some of those things in discovery and ACC has to come crying, like that isn't what they've shown thus far. But, what kind of thing could we have to see for it to go that way for Florida State to walk away with 100 million instead of like, the half of the show is thinking you're gonna have to end up paying 120 million, which is what I've kind of predicted this whole time would be the kind of dollar amount to get the hell out.
Well, hypothetically, it's just based off of what skeletons and proof you have. And if Florida State was to settle and pay anything, I would be hugely surprised, just based off of that information alone. But if Florida State pays, the question to be had is do you pay attention to the depths of the negotiation portion? Let's say that Florida State pays $100 million to get out. But the ACC then there promises that they will give them X amount of dollars for damages over the past X amount of years. And then you end up with 150 to 200 million. So you made 50 to $100 million. There's a lot of ways that you can finagle how it looks like both parties win. And it depends on what lawyers want to play nice and what lawyers don't give a fuck. Let's just, I mean, if I were a lawyer for Florida State right now, and I had my law degree and I was doing what I would love to do at one point, my amendments would be very simple, regardless of whether it's federal, whether it's in North Carolina, or whether it's in Florida. Let's say they make it federal and it goes to fucking Maryland or something. I don't really care what happens. Don't think that it will. I think the federal still would be happening in Florida or in North Carolina. But my amendments would be no UNC alum judges, no NC State alum judges, no Duke alum judges, and the fourth one's just none of them. Because I would protect my school at all costs, no matter how wrong they are. So you have to worry about the same thing with any UNC grads that might be judges or any NC State judges, whatever the case may be. There's all of these people come from somewhere. All of these judges federally, all of them, no matter what, they come from some school. So my actions would be, we amend to choose Judge Ranker, which is a Harvard graduate. He has no dog in this fight. It's just, plus he's also like a realist, so he wants all of the information, all of it. It's very important that Florida State gets a judge that wants all of the evidence, that wants discovery to happen at its deepest point. Because if you don't allow it to go to its deepest point, then the ACC gets a fighting chance. If he doesn't want discovery made into the depths, then you don't get it. Like it's just starts going backwards, where you're starting to spin instead of succeeding to go forward. Florida State, I personally think, has a multitude of amendments that are about to come. As soon as the ACC makes their move, they're literally they're playing chess. All we did was take out 4 of their pawns with the amendments that we made with 62 pages. They made an amendment. They made a move up a couple of spots. They didn't knock anybody off the board. We might be in their ninth face right this minute. And we're getting ready to go after the queen, and it depends on their move. Like, do they move their queen to take out a knight? Or do we see them throw a pawn out in front of us again? Maybe 2 or 3, and we fight those off, and then we just say, fuck it, checkmate. Because you at any point in time that you continue to pull them off, you're going to jump in and you're going to take down the queen, because the queen is the money. Who is the money for all of these universities? It's not hard to figure out if you really, really look at it. Just go reading some articles back in 2008, start there, go to 2013, then 16, and you'll see the high interest from these people that wanted to put money into this grant of rights deal, who also bought into the rights of, which may or may not be illegal, seeing how the ACC is not an IPO. There's a huge problem with investing or donating. You can donate as much as you want. The moment that it becomes an investment and you require a return, now you've made an investment in something that may or may not be willing to accept an investment. The ACC is not willing to accept an investment the way that it was done. There's a lot to this. Like, it's not just this school, this school, this school, and this school. It's not just Raycom Sports, ESPN. It's not just Skipper and the what's them fuckers' names? The Swafford Gate fucks. It's not that is literally scratching the first layer of surface. The depths that this is going to, or the depths that it really is, it's not as bad as catching somebody that's a child trafficker, but damn, it's close. That's
like,
how.
what is it? Sam, the guy that was FTX or whatever that lost Tom Brady's $500 million, like that level of like, screwing people over type thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
You mean the one that was just let go? Yeah, he got away with it.
Yeah,
he got away with it.
It's insane. Yeah, it's
Must be
pretty
nice.
crazy.
Well, I mean, you look at Acorn, they completely got off with 0 penalties after they stopped people from buying into GameStop. Just cut it off one day.
Oh,
Said,
yeah.
"Look, you can't buy anymore." And it dropped the stock again, and a bunch of billionaires and hedge funds started making money like they were supposed to again. And they thought that people, because they lost money, were going to back off of it as soon as Acorn allowed you to buy GameStop. The whole movement behind that is exactly what this country probably needed and still needs. But they tried to do it not only once, but twice. The hedge funds, Acorn, all of them were founded in a multitude of infractions that were federal. Robinhood, whatever the fuck they're called. Robin Paul and all that shit. Whatever they did, those are they let them go. No penalties. Continue your business. You know why? Because the U.S. government was who was asking. The U.S. government was who was investigating. The U.S. government was who was going to decide the penalty. If you go back and look, the hedge fund, the two main ones, Citadel and the other one I don't remember, they took X amount of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they put it into a specific party. It's the same thing, just on a slightly smaller scale that's being done. All big money. Anybody that is as rich as these conferences, anybody that's as rich as ESPN, Fox, so on and so on, they did some fucked up shit somewhere. They had to. It's the matter of, did you catch on to it? Did you record it? Do you have the evidence to prove that they did so? The ACC has skeletons that it would wake the entire, like, the reason it doesn't need to come out is because the majority of everybody that loves college sports would say it's all a fucking hoax. Because it's kind of endangering of what some of the stuff was. Some people made bets on things that you can't say they got open to, but it is what it is. We'll see where it goes. We'll see what Florida State does. We'll see how just gritty this shit gets, because it can get awful.
Ain't no doubt, man. It's like it's going to be like an episode of Suits. I know we've made that joke a lot, but it really is. I mean, it's just, there's so many layers when you're talking about a, whatever it was, close to $2 billion deal. And it had to be fought to keep. They fought to keep it so many times, from 2008 to 10 to 12 to 16 to 20 to 21, over and over again. Chris spoke about it aboard. Raycom is just, that's the name of the company. I'm sure, there ain't no telling who all is invested in that thing. We talk about Chad Swafford being, working there and moving up within the company, but like Chris said, that could just scratch the surface. It may look like on the seams, from the surface, it's just as simple as we think, but there may be a whole nother 10 layers behind it. And I guess just from the reaction of FSU's first, their very first amended things and, responses, it's been so much of a absolute destruction of what the ACC brought forward, that it makes it clear. And, also one of the things I was just reading, and the thing that I wanted to bring up, as far as the amendment and the filing that Florida State did today, the ACC and kind of their dealings with ESPN and the stuff they're trying to hold out. So what I just realized, and I didn't realize it just now, like, even the documents that they're submitting to the court, the documents they're submitting for the court to seal, quote unquote, they've got it redacted where the judge can't even read it. Like all that's left on the thing is like you can like headers and kind of numbers that are all completely public information anymore. So and the question that Florida State's lawyers are asking, and it goes to what we're talking about, how corrupt and how deep this stuff goes. It's like, why is it that you're, requesting this document that is so heavily redacted already to be sealed? What's the point? There's nothing on there that isn't already public information. So there is no doubt that behind the scenes, this thing it's a tangled web. That's he calls it Swafford Gate. We call it Swafford's Web. But yeah, it goes a lot deeper than Swafford, and I can't wait for it to come out more and more. We got a $5 super chat from Thee Who Makes It Rain. The Rain Man, Jeff Hill, says these billionaires then become billionaires by not scamming people or cheating someone out of a contract. They don't want that stuff to come out. Yeah, no doubt, for sure. Appreciate you, Jeff. Yeah, ACC Gate is in full effect, man. It's a lot of fun, and I can't wait for the, I guess that February 16th date is kind of out the window as they begin to file all these things. But really curious to see what the next move is and how it all turns out.
Yeah, I will say, man, like people have to not underestimate the distance rich people and people who do business dealings like this will go. They will sell their own grandmother if it means making a few extra dollars. They don't care, and they don't expect to get caught. And so I think, when you talk about going deeper and the Raycom thing, like this may require Raycom to open up some books, and it may reveal some things that they don't want. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, man. I think that, again, like you talk about, the lengths these people will go is you would be surprised. And so I think, yeah, it's going to get deeper for sure. But I feel like after this last, retort by Florida State, you just feel like you feel better about it, because at first it was like when they came back, it was like, okay, the ACC might have something here, but they've laid the bed, and so they're going to have to deal with it, and all this does come to light eventually, and it sounds like it's now their turn to come to light. And again, if you're so hell bent on keeping all this stuff secret, you obviously have something to hide, because it's not like Chris said earlier. It's not like you're hiding your secret sauce. I mean, you can't cook and you're keeping your recipes a secret. There's no sense in that. It's not like you're the best conference out there. So obviously you're hiding it, not because of you don't want someone to find out trade secrets, because you don't want someone to find out secrets.
Where the money's going. Yeah. Who got paid for what? Who owns the production studio, hypothetically? Say Raycom, they have all these games to do. Well, I don't think, they have, I don't know the size of their company, but maybe they had to rent out a production for this person to film this game, or, and that you could go on with conspiracy theories for hours, but behind closed doors, it isn't a conspiracy theory. There are trails. There are, like, this money had to go somewhere, and their foot or their face is going to get pushed up against the stove. They're going to have to answer. They're going to have to answer for why things were done. Like, there has to be somebody somewhere that, said there's a reason for us to go this way besides just, oh, he's my buddy, or we want to keep them in business. Because that's just, you just cannot do it. That's just not a legal way to do things, and they're not going to be able to keep it under wraps. I'm going to throw the number up there, guys. This isn't a normal show. I'm not sure we're going to play it by ear. I know Chris has got a show later tonight that we're going to set up before we get out of here. But we're going to go ahead and throw the number up there. If y'all want to get questions in, you can text or call here for a few minutes before we do get out of here.
I was going to say, I think Raycom's out of Charlotte too, so I might have to really, I'm going to be spreading myself thin doing some investigative journalism. So, but I will keep the pressure on if I have to. But, I will say one thing too, with the last retort that Florida State did and claiming actual damages from the loss of the revenue of the tier 2 and 3 rights to Raycom, which, they basically didn't get paid anything for. To me, that also shows damages. And like where Chris was talking about earlier, where, like, how do you come to a scenario where they owe Florida State money? A lot of what the ACC says Florida State would owe them for damages is hypothetical stuff. If they lost, it would hurt the conference in this projected way. But if you can show actual damages, then that can be ruled that they have to pay that back. They have to reimburse you for that. And if that number is as big as they're saying it is, then there is a certain scenario where the scales just balance in the other direction. Or you just be like, listen, you're cool with it. I'm cool with it. $0. We're out of here.
I hear you. Yeah, I agree, man. You're live with the Renegade Rundown.
Hey, so this is Nick, and I just wanted to tie a sad day together in the sense that the reason this realignment is such, I know everyone agrees, is so important because we stand on the shoulders of giants. There are people like Bobby. There are people like Mike out there. I mean, I think Lonnie Alameda is a legend. I think Hamilton's a legend. We're not going to let their work just be all for naught. We built this, they built it for us, and we're going to go right on into the future.
Absolutely, man. We sure appreciate your call. Did you have a question, or you just wanted to get that out there for the folks or not?
I just had to get that out there, man. I'm feeling it, but, Martin's up there partying with Bobby. I know it.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. They're talking ball. We appreciate you for calling in, man, and God bless and go Noles.
Thank
Go
you.
So I've got another hypothetical question, and I want to see how y'all answer this. So in 2020, which we've talked about this, Florida State, the ACC allowed a
I
certain
know where this is
team
going.
to come place conference play and could have won a conference championship and all of these great things. Here's what's weird to me. Florida State makes about 7.5% of the profit that is brought in to the ACC conference. Problem is they bring 15.9% of the profit. So they don't get technically the fair share of what they're supposed to already based off of what they do. What do you do if you find out that in 2020, because we were told that because of the limited amount of games that were played and fans weren't allowed to do such and such in certain stadiums, and the ACC and the TV deals didn't make what was anticipated. So everybody kind of got a lesser amount than what they were even promised for that year. Except for the exact amount that all the other schools that are conference members might have had full members that are getting hammered and saying if you try to leave, you're paying $500 million. But to this team that came in and played in your conference, who technically gave you zilch,
Nothing.
the exact number they held from all of the other teams in the conference is what that team made from your conference.
You're saying if you add it all up, or that Notre Dame got the exact amount of money we should have got the full season's worth?
Yes.
Yeah.
The exact amount. But they said they didn't get paid that.
Of course.
What they told Florida State, Miami, Georgia Tech, so on and so on, was because of the limited amount of play and the limited amount of audience that were at the games, that they were going to have to make X because they just didn't make this. But if you take in totality the number to what Notre Dame made off of coming and playing in the 2020 season off of the ACC, and you take that number and you split it amongst the actual members, it's the exact amount that Notre Dame received. How did you pay them if you didn't make it?
Let me go first.
Way,
oh, I'm sorry.
No one voted. No one voted to allow Notre Dame to be able to do this as conference members. The board did of the ACC. Florida State didn't say, yeah, let them play. North Carolina didn't say, yeah, let them play. That wasn't said. So if I'm not mistaken, based off of what we do know about the grant of rights deal, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 breach of contracts in 1 year.
Yeah, and I said I'll go first. I'll be quick. But first off, that was always my contention, the numbers he brought up. They pay every team about 7%. Florida State brings in about 15%. Folks, you go punch that in your calculators. That brings, if FSU were to get the 15% they bring in, right at $85 million, the exact number we need to be at to match the SEC and that Big Ten. And all the ACC had to do to make this shit whole was give us our $80 million, and we'd have stayed right here happy in the conference. But no, they don't want to go off of that number. They wanted to say some bullshit about, oh, we'll go win the conference and we can work out something on performance-based. Well, we won the conference, and we got left out. But to what he was saying, to me, my answer to that is them paying Notre Dame full value market value, really below market value for a normal year, but above market value for that limited COVID year, obviously, because they went and told all their members they had to take a shaving on it. They basically said, yeah, but we understand what it takes to get, a top football franchise to compete. We know what it takes for them to operate, because we have to pay Notre Dame to do it. And we are willing to, just not our own people who we have locked in. So that's basically what I said. That's a brilliant thing for you to bring up. And if I'm an attorney, I'm pointing at that and I'm saying, look, they know they're not paying enough. They know, look what they did for Notre Dame just to get them to, and that's just right on top of it. But I digress to whoever's next.
Well, I mean, I think we knew that Notre Dame was getting paid, and I think that's part of where the ACC came out with their confidentiality bullshit that they put in that one filing. It's because Florida State released it, and Notre Dame wasn't supposed to be getting that type of money. They weren't. That's not what we were told. That's not what anybody else was told. And in fact, Boston College, all you other losers, Wake Forest, y'all should be happy with this, that we're putting this out there. But you're not. You're whining and you're being like, oh my God, we're going to get left behind. Of course you are. You suck and you do nothing that's productive and you bring no money and nobody cares. But what I'm saying is Notre Dame is almost, oh my God, you talk about living on the past. The only thing that makes them better than Miami is at least they've made the playoffs. Now, they got killed in the playoffs. I get it. A couple times? What, twice? I mean, but hang on, let me think. If Notre Dame was undefeated in 2023, would they be allowed in the playoffs considering what their score margin has been in the past? Or, I think they would. I think they would have been, and people would have been like, well, you have to. They're undefeated.
Okay.
I mean, I thought we were worried about lopsided losses because Notre Dame is the king of those in the playoffs. Like, the absolute king. It's so embarrassing, but fine, cool, whatever. Enjoy yourselves, Notre Dame. You do nothing. You bring nothing to the table. You get paid for nothing. Peacock puts you on. You get all that money. Cool. I'm happy with it. Y'all need to just join the Big Ten and just make all this stuff in so that other people can move on. Because you are nobodies now. You're nobodies. You're living. All your fans are 85 years old. They're not new. You don't see new Notre Dame podcasts popping up. You don't see, it's absolutely, it's just, this is old. Notre Dame is old media. Notre Dame is NBC News, okay? They're NBC News. Nobody watches it. Nobody cares. The only people that care are the ones who, used to watch it, who run NBC News. But yes, I think Notre Dame, that whole scenario was terrible. Notre Dame throwing their elbows around to allow Cal and Stanford to come in. Ugh.
Nasty work.
Yeah.
It's gross.
And the thing about that's interesting that you bring that up about Notre Dame in 2020, because when I first saw that, I was like, well, what's the ACC getting from this? Because
nothing.
You need us or you don't have a season. We don't need you. I thought it was a weak point in the leadership of the ACC not to say, hey, Notre Dame, I want a percentage of your money, because if you're going to have an opportunity to win our conference and play our season, whereas you wouldn't be able to play any games without the ACC should have used that as leverage to either say, hey, we want a cut of your money, or if you join a conference, you need to be joining the ACC. And we know that it's not financially feasible for them to join the ACC because of the contract that they currently get. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting as well, that they got paid that when they weren't supposed to. And the ACC, again, it's just a snowball of weak leadership at the ACC. And I think that's another reason why Florida State wants out, because they haven't shown the ability for them to trust the ACC to argue on their behalf, and you have no faith that they will going forward either. Because again, I mean, that's stuff that they should have demanded more from them to begin with. And like George said, I mean, if you're literally getting paid half of what you bring in, how can you not be mad at that? You know what I mean? Like, you look at all the other schools, of course they're going to be happy with it. They don't bring that in, but Florida State, but I think a lot of that steps back to, and I know everybody can say that they want to win championships, but outside of Florida State and Clemson, there's a lot of teams that are pretty happy. I mean, let's talk about the BC situation, with Hafley leaving. He was on the hot seat last year. 7-6 essentially got him off the hot seat. So that means 7-6 is like, great job, buddy. We made it to a bowl. They're not trying to compete for the same things that we like. I think George dropped off, but like the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
How did Boston College get in the conference is what I was saying when it dropped off there to
Right.
begin with.
Right. Like, we're not trying to compete for the Duke's Mayo Bowl and all that stuff. We're trying to compete with the other big boys of college football. Like, if they slip up and win an ACC title every 10, 20 years or something like that, great. Congratulations. They make a good bowl. They can, do what they wanted. And North Carolina fans didn't even show up for a bowl in Charlotte last year. So that's interesting too. But, Florida State, I think the reason why Florida State and even Clemson are so focused on getting out of here as well is because they know they have to compete to compete at the level they want to compete at. First off, you got to play an SEC team every single year, which is unique to basically everybody except for Clemson. And then, you get to the playoffs. You have to compete against those national brands that are going to be making $30 to $40 million a year. Whereas like Wake Forest, you have a good year every now and then, every decade or two. Like, that's great. You hang your hat on that. But we're in the same conference. We're playing the same sport, but we're not playing the same game. You know what I mean? So I think that's why Florida State, they know they need to get out for a multitude of reasons, but that's why a lot of other schools aren't necessarily, concerned about it, because they're just not competing they're not trying to win at the same level that Florida State is.
What if everybody knew that all of the games that Notre Dame played against the ACC teams, even if they played at, let's say, Florida State at home, or they played at North Carolina at home, what if you found out that technically everybody in the ACC that played Notre Dame got paid zero, but actually paid money for Notre Dame to play them?
That would be...
It wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me, but it would be absolutely ridiculous.
It's exactly what's been going on, though. I don't know that people know that.
Get ready.
Yeah. That's
Florida
exactly
State.
what's been going on.
Florida State, every year that we've played Notre Dame, we lost money on that game.
Yep.
And all in an effort to artificially pump up and make the conference look like it's doing something. And they did a good job. I mean, a lot of these people, ESPN, a lot of these, they pretend as if Notre Dame is in the SEC. They carry their bucket or their water for them, but it's all a facade, and it brings zero value. Like Chris just said, it cost us money. I'm not sure what the exact situation on their Tier 2 rights are. Do they get paid the same as us for Tier 2 rights, or do they have an individually bargained thing on their Tier 2 sports? Because they are in Olympic sports, I guess, a full member in the ACC. I wonder what that cut looks like. If it's
I think they
disproportionately.
Get a full share. I think they get a full share in those.
Yeah, I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than full, is what I'm getting at. If they get the full share plus whatever, this or that for.
They're not supposed to be paid for football, so they are being paid more than a full share for their Tier 2, Tier 3. Absolutely, they are. They are. 100%. And also, when this happened in 2020, does anybody else remember the ACC saying eventually they're going to join fully in football?
Oh yeah, that was the idea.
They just re-signed a new deal. They're not going anywhere. If they go to a conference, they're going to the Big Ten. The ACC is so dumb. They're such a clown show. They're so poorly run. They lie 24/7 just to. They're those people who are like, this is done. It's complete. They haven't started it yet. They haven't started the project yet. It's nowhere close to being done, but they're the idiot loser that works for you that's like, oh, no, I've been done with my work. And
sounds like the ACC Direct Network. I mean, fuck. Man. Is there anything before we move on or until we get another question about it? Do y'all want to touch on this before we go into another subject? I kind of wanted to talk about the whole capacity. People seem to be up in arms about the new capacity of Doak Campbell Stadium.
Yeah, that's not went over too well so far. But it's going to be a transition year. So I mean, it's it's going to be down for a year, but hopefully, they said, wow, that's a lot of progress since the last time I saw it.
Right? I'm saying that's what Doak Campbell currently looks like. Just to clear up any confusion out there, the thing is it's going to be, I think, around 55,000 seats for this year. That means 55,000 seats while the construction's going on. Because obviously, if you've seen the renderings of what this thing's going to look like, it's going to be a completely different thing there on that home side. But you see how they have it cut out there. there's going to be a whole nother like field level kind of club section thing and all kind of cool stuff. It's going to go to seating more like the Champions Club. I love it. I have no problems with it. I think while you have a great home schedule this year, with Clemson and Florida both coming to town, it is a bit of a transition. You're stuck in the ACC for one last year, and there are some kind of smaller schools. It's just you're going to be sold out every single week. And yeah, we were sold out for Southern Miss last year. I'm not saying that we couldn't fill them, but it's not the end of the world. It's something that just had to happen. The stadium's old. It's got to, get to the future. So I'm not one of these people that's super upset about it. And we don't have to spend a ton of time on this. I just thought we'd cover it. I'd get y'all's opinions on it.
I will say that it is supposed to be like mid to high 50s this year, but then it should be back. Alfred said it should be back in the 70s next year. So that's still, I mean, if you look at a lot of the ACC stadiums, some of the better ACC environments outside of Clemson, who has a 90,000 seat stadium, there's still 50, 60,000 people at most of these stadiums. They're not huge stadiums. And even like you don't see a lot of new stadiums being built nowadays, at least in the college aspect of things, other than teams who are trying to move on campus. But these are 25 and 30,000 seat stadiums. And I understand Florida State sold, out like 6 home games or something like that last year. But the move to expanding is a lot slower than the move to contracting. And it's just because attendance is down in college football as a whole, because of TVs are cheap nowadays for the easiest way to put it. And I think now it's just about giving people creature comforts to want to come to games. I mean, you got to understand a lot of like the young students, they want Wi-Fi. I don't care about my phone during a game, but it would be nice. I tried to tweet out a picture of the me at Doak at one of the games I went to, and it didn't go through until 9:00 the next day.
Bro.
So like, it would be nice. Right. But, and I think it needs to happen. I mean, I don't love all aspects of it. I don't necessarily love the field level bars and stuff like that, but I think the widening of the seats, the new bathrooms, the concessions, all that stuff, it needed to happen. So I, for one, am excited about the changes. And Doak will still be loud. It's the way it's built, its structure is going to be loud. It's a complete bowl stadium, even at 50 or 70,000. So, tickets might be at a premium this year. So, if you're not a season ticket holder, you might want to jump on that now.
Facts. And also, guys, like I said, Chris has Spear Addicts coming up in a little bit. He's probably got another 10 or 15 minutes with us. But Spear Addicts Media has all kind of exciting stuff going on. Some stuff we can talk about, some we can't. So just let all our people know, it's not the busiest time of the year, but we still have over 100 people in here. We appreciate you guys all sticking with us. Before we wrap it up and do the last kind of 10 minutes of the show, what do you got going on over there, Chris?
Well, tonight at 8 p.m., I've got what I was going to call a normal show. It's not so normal. There may or may not be breaking news that pops on the show. Just depends on what someone decides to do. I hope it doesn't happen personally, because I don't want to talk about it, to be all honest. But the thumbnail will pop up about 7:45, and if it pops up what I'm saying, then we're going to talk about it. Unfortunately, it's depending on which one pops up. If there's a certain person on it, then it's popping up. Other than that, I'm having a lot of fun with the ACC shit. Outside of that, I have even more fun trolling Mario Crystal Tits. I have photo evidence that he uses a boob binder, by the way.
Stop.
I do.
I need it. Really I need that photo evidence.
You're muted, George. I don't know what you're saying.
Nope.
I do that shit from time to time. I was just saying, me and Jib were ahead of that shit. We've been talking about we need to get him a man's ear. Like, Chris comes with the titty slapping. Now he's talking about photo evidence of the binder, the legit man's ear from Seinfeld. Breaking news. It exists. We got to get this. Maybe we'll be able to show it on the next show.
And then, outside of that, I did start a special. It's really supposed to be the dads and sons. But all the dads hit me up and said they wanted to do a dad's show first, like 2 dads at a time. And then we're going to come back and bring on the dad and the son, and the dad and the son, and the dad and the son. I will tell everybody that Big Dave and Marvin Jones Jr. will be, or Junior, listen to me. Marvin Jones will be on the next Dad's episode, Behind the Tribe. And then after that, oh shit. Who is it after that? What other dads do I got? I don't know. It's like fucking 4 more. And then we'll go back to Rob and Kaylin DeLoach. And then we'll have Matt Fryer and Camden Fryer on. And then we'll have Big Dave and DJU on. And then we'll have Marvin Jones and Marvin Jones Jr. on. And there's like 4 more that just they're not connecting right now, but that's what's coming.
Hell yeah, we love it. Plant the Spear. I know you just dropped a video. Before we went on, you were recording, did a doubleheader today. Anything else you want to let the fans know about?
Yeah, just go check that one out, man. We talk a lot about the FSU versus the ACC. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, so I give my best Judge Judy take on it that I can here. But we just have a little fun with it as well, kind of from a fan's perspective. Of course, the Mike Martin news broke in the middle of recording, so we pivoted to touch on that as well. We also talked about the players showing out in the Senior Bowl, so that's something that we talked about in there as well. And then next week, obviously for those of you who fall under the entire Florida State web, as far as what fans you are, we're going to do a little bit of a baseball and a softball show next week, as well as those sports get ready to kick off. I'm looking for a bounce back year from the baseball team and of course the softball team. I mean, they're always good. They got all these top 5 rankings. They're going to be great. So we're going to drop that for you guys next week as well. So just go check that out. And just, I always enjoy coming on the Renegade Report. It's a fun time, of course. So I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate it always. And if we have a lot of guests on and stuff, but between Spear Addicts, Dim Media Group, Plant the Spear, we've got a pretty good group of regular contributors, and we like to get on here and talk. And, it's fun. We got all these Miami people, as we're talking about all these awesome things we're doing. We got these Miami people talking shit about their beautiful stadium and stuff. I had to log the comment just to let them know that it is the Seminole Hard Rock.
Yeah, Seminole Hard Rock. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right here on the Renegade Report. We don't have anything specific for tomorrow, but Sunday we have a couple of great high school coaches. One is my buddy George. He coached Siono Lohea in high school over there in California, and another one is somebody who's just extremely intelligent guy. He's a coach over in Virginia in the DMV area that I've gotten to talk to in a couple of spaces on the phone, just talk ball, and 2 really awesome guys. So we'll have them on Sunday, and we'll have some announcements coming up going forward. But yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. Again, I think Chris has about 5 minutes. You can get out here whenever you need to. We really appreciate you joining us. But we can keep on. If you have any questions, the number is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Again, that's 8. That is the BAT line. You can text a question in if you're, a little nervous. And if you Miami people got anything worth responding to in there, I will respond to it. But y'all's trolls have been so freaking weak tonight. It's just like,
their trolls are as mid as their team is. It's so sad. They can't get any better. It's really pathetic. You almost feel sorry for them. They're kind of like the bullied kid that continues to make moves, like showing up at school smelling like garlic. And you're like, why do you do this? Why do you wear the same sweatshirt that smells like BO every day and then whine that people are mean to you and make fun of you? That's why. That's what Miami fans are. They are the sad, pathetic kid who just keeps showing up in their BO sweatshirt, the same one every day. And I mean, again, these trolls are so terrible. It'd be one thing if they were good, but like making fun of Doak Campbell when you don't even have your own stadium that you can't even get fans to show up to with Bogots. I don't have the time for you guys today. I'm sorry. I don't care. You're pathetic. Let's get to the summer, okay? Let's get to the summer where y'all win the summer and then lose the fall as usual.
You can tell it's the off season again. The off season champs are back. I think, and man, I just can't wait for this year to play out because this is definitely a put up or shut up year for Miami. I mean, it's year 3. You got 3 of your classes in there. You've got a quarterback now, and you've got a soft schedule again. So, like, if they don't step up and win some games this year, it's, it's gonna. I'm ready to see how things play out for them because I'm still not sold on it. But yeah, I mean, to talk about Doak Campbell and to talk, I saw the one guy he mentioned in there that talking about Cohen throwing Fisk, like that's a great move in the WWE.
Yeah,
Like
Jesus
where you
Christ.
can
His
grab
own
someone
coach called it out.
Right, your own coach said it was holding, so it's like, yeah, no. But speaking of, yeah, man, those guys have really shown out in the Senior Bowl practices, and that's been really fun to watch. Again, it's fun to watch and also equally frustrating because that shows what Florida State could have done given the chance in the playoffs because they've been dominating some of the top competition. So that's been fun to watch too. But yeah, that's a good move in wrestling, not so much in football. That's called a penalty.
Yeah, I didn't think to bring up any of those Senior Bowl clips, but
Oh, there we
yeah,
go.
the question.
Yeah. Kane fans with their clips and their, this player, they love to post videos of penalties. Isn't that the most pathetic thing you've ever seen? Remember when they posted all of these videos of Keon Coleman in jail and being locked down when it was clearly DPI, which was called in that game? I don't have the words for how dumb these dudes are. I'm sorry. You guys are so pathetic. It's so sad. All you do is post these videos. Oh my God, look at our players. They're dominating. Are they or are they getting penalties? Because that's all you post. You post penalty videos and you post games that you've lost. It is so sad. I mean, oh my God.
It's like when the DBs used to do the no completion sign when they throw it 20 yards over their head. It's like, I mean, what did you really accomplish? Because you got a 10-yard or 15-yard penalty, so you didn't win the rep. Yeah, no, I agree. It's terrible.
Yeah, that would drive me nuts, man. I saw a question. Somebody finally brought it up. Look, we love Fuller D around here. We're not gonna go too deep into it because we don't have any information. I don't think anything's gonna break while we're here. I don't think there's anything necessarily that I know of. But look, he's a badass coach. Is it a similar philosophy to what he has? Their physical, you could see his defense going right over there. I don't know. I don't know who's at top of their list. I don't know what his dream job is. I know that's kind of sort of an area he's from. I know what the last couple head coaches did there. They had to leave and go become coordinators again to kind of get their career back. Right now, you're seeing it with Halfley and a guy who was a big up and coming defensive mind that went there. Now he's headed to the NFL. The same thing you saw with I can't think of the damn guy's name now, but the offensive line coach from Florida who went there for several years. He had to leave. He's back to being a coordinator or analyst or whatever down Alabama until now. But yeah, curious. Chris, you're about to get off here. Any thoughts or anything on that particular situation?
On Fuller?
Yeah, I guess.
Um,
Or any teases?
May I wish all of the greatest luck to him if he leaves.
Right. That's a hell of a position to step into versus the luxury and the golden kind of history that is Florida State and our defense the past 40 years. It's a
I'll be
whole
discussing
different situation.
a lot on the show coming up.
Absolutely. So y'all guys make sure you get over there and check out Spear Addicts as they start right here in about 25 minutes, I believe, on YouTube at Spear Addicts. And they've been streaming it to Twitter some. If you're over there, you can go comment. Those comments actually share now, I think. I'm not sure actually with yours if that works or not. But
I require all the assholes that watch my show to go to YouTube, even if you see it on Twitter.
So if you see it on YouTube, click the link and go to YouTube. Even if you see it on X, because it really does help us, with our different metrics and things like that. We need those views to be on YouTube, but we sure appreciate you, Chris. And I guess I can pull up some of these absolute dominations before we get out of here of Braden Fisk at the Senior Bowl for the people to look at. And if anybody has anything else, the floor is open. This is kind of in game. We'll go for another 10, 15 minutes here. Or we can close it in 5 minutes, whatever y'all think.
I will say, too, it's been more than one. It's been Fisk. It's been Fabian Lovett as well.
Yes, sir.
Was unblockable there for a little bit. They're just throwing Michigan offensive line around like ragdolls. And then, obviously, Johnny Wilson has really probably improved his draft stock with this. You've seen Jaheim Bell show out, too. Renardo Green, Jerrion Jones, all have had really good Senior Bowl camps. It's almost like they knew what they were doing when they decided to get healthy and prepare for this. And, at the same time, while the 63-3 thing, yes, it's unfortunate. It was a game that didn't really matter against a bunch of backups. I understand all that. To me, if you go put 6, 8, 10, 12 guys in the NFL, that's going to do more for your program long term than a shell of a game that everybody knows what it is. So that's why I think it's been so big to see them showing out like this.
And against who? I mean, Look at this rep against Jaheim Bell. We've seen it against the Georgia receivers that are there, the Georgia linebackers and DBs there. We've seen them just mollywhopping them Miami guys. How about James Williams? There's a way we can connect Miami and these clips. We've been telling everybody and their brother that will listen. Spear Addicts, as long as he's been a podcast, probably as long as we've been a podcast, that James Williams, they talk about him like he's the, going to be a first draft pick at safety, all this stuff. The dude's a linebacker. Put him in linebacker. The proof is in the pudding from what we've seen at the Senior Bowl, and it's kind of a disservice to him that he's out there having to do what he has to do to try to climb the board as a linebacker to put film out there. And you can see his technique and stuff is getting him in some bad situations and getting him roasted in some of these things. As you see Johnny Wilson just absolutely abuse. Looks like a different Georgia DB this time in this clip. That route, him and Jaheim Bell have been just absolutely destroying that route the whole Senior Bowl practice.
I know, man. And you got to imagine that it does help. I mean, it has to help with the way they've been showing out. And so, I think just across the board, I mean, again, this is also going to help sell. I talked about recruiting, but even with the transfer portal, like if you have guys who are looking for somewhere to go, who can and see what Florida State was able to do with the transfers and put them into the NFL, and they also have the NIL backing to get that side of things if that's what you're after too. I think it's only going to help be a better sell, and it's just been so much fun watching them show out. Again, there's Jaheim Bell roasting Miami, and then that's the thing, like you said, George, it's been against the best competition. I've seen reps against Washington players, against Michigan players, against Georgia players, and the film doesn't change. It's just been dominant rep after dominant rep. And so, again, to the brainless people who just go 63-3 and don't think the starters would have made a difference, then man, this shows you right here that it would have made a difference had you had those starters. That game would have not even remotely been the same. But yeah, man, I mean, these guys are absolutely showing out. It's been really fun to watch.
Damn sure. That one all through kind of pass interference and stuff.
Right. I mean, look at what Jaheim Bell can do when he's healthy. And we know that injuries played a toll on these guys towards the end of the season. And that's why a lot of them did not play in the bowl game, because they needed to rest up and prepare for these exact moments.
Without a doubt. All right, guys. Anything else y'all want to cover? I don't see any questions coming in. We really appreciate you guys. We love everybody. We appreciate Chris coming in here. Of course, Spear Addicts Media at Spear Addicts right here on YouTube. At Jen Santee 1890 on X is where you can find my beautiful co-host on Twitter, and plantthespear.com or at plantthespear right here. Also, the two guys on top, we both have Substacks. Mine's called renegadereport.substack.com. I've got a great writer. His name's Matt Champion. He's done a great job, all kind of fun stuff over there. And we also put the audio only downloads of these things up there. We try to as soon as possible for paid subscribers only, and then 40 hours later, once the kind of views run their course on YouTube, we'll open that audio download up for everybody. But again, another great show. We really appreciate all the support, all the guys that have kind of donated. And again, if anybody has anything they wanted to plug before we get out of here, we will head out.
Not
everybody
really,
good?
Yeah, just excited. Just appreciate you having me on. Always enjoy talking FSU, man.
Absolutely, man. Go Noles.
Go Noles.
I promise you guys, I'm gonna get us a good exit, but I just love this damn Trub Life song. So we'll leave you with Carlos Williams preview to his episode again. Y'all go check that one out if you haven't, and we'll listen to some Trub Life talk shit about Bama on the way out.
First off, fuck Bama in the road tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress pants. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Take